Dream of the Red Chamber by Xueqin. Part 1. It begins before memory, before music, before any tear has been shed or any love has been confessed. It begins with a stone, unremarkable to any passerby, yet bearing within it a longing so tender it almost hurt. The stone had once been chosen for the goddess Nufa's divine craft, meant to patch the very sky itself. But she did not use it. She left it behind, a leftover fragment of heaven lying abandoned on the edge of creation. The stone waited. It watched the world of mortals from afar, humans fallen in love, breaking apart, striving and failing, living and dying, and something inside it yearned. If only I could feel even a single moment of that, the stone whispered, speaking into the silence of eternity. Just once, let me be human. The universe listened, not with sympathy, but with a kind of amused curiosity, and the stone's wish fell into the weave of destiny. Threads reshaped themselves, mortals dreamed without understanding why. Stars shifted slightly in their courses, and one day the stone was reborn. It became a boy, crying his first breath with a piece of radiant jade in his mouth, a sign both auspicious and mysterious. His name was Jia, and from the moment he opened his eyes, the world reacted to him as if his existence were a story already written. But the stone had not been the only one driven by longing. In another realm beyond human sight, a tiny immortal known as the Crimson Pearl Fairy spent her days watering enchanted flowers. Among them was one special plant, delicate and stubborn, needing endless care. Over the ages, the fairy tended to it with a devotion she could not explain. One day, she discovered a strange truth. The plant was not merely alive, it had feelings. It wanted to repay the fairy's kindness. And how would it repay? Not with words, not with gold, but with tears. Then I will descend into the mortal world, the plant whispered, and return every drop of love you ever gave me, tear by tear. And so the Crimson Pearl Fairy and the plant each fell into human fate. They would meet again. But in the mortal world, they would not remember why their hearts already ached for each other. The Rongguo mansion rose like a world made of silks and lantern light. Its halls glowed with gold-painted beams and vermilion columns. The scent of incense coiled through endless corridors. Servants hurried, as though their footsteps preserved the dignity of the noble Jia clan. Music drifted on the breeze from distant pavilions, kin strings trembling softly, voices rehearsing opera lines that echoed between willow trees. "Look at him," an elderly nursemaid whispered as the young Bao toddled past, his small hands reaching toward fluttering silk banners. "He carries that jade as if it were part of his soul." "Part of his destiny," another murmured. Bao grew up surrounded by luxury, yet the world that nurtured him also confused him. There were rules he was expected to follow, paths predetermined by his lineage. He was told what an honorable man should be, stern, disciplined, detached from frivolity. But Bao saw none of these qualities in himself. Instead, he saw color, emotion, poetry, a tapestry of faces and feelings that stirred him far more deeply than any Confucian text. When he was still young enough to be carried, he asked his grandmother, "Why do the girls smile so softly when they talk to each other? Why do their hearts feel warmer than the men's hearts?" Lady Jia, wise and affectionate, only laughed. "Because women carry half the beauty of this world. Bao Yu took that answer into his heart and never let it go, even as his father's disapproval grew louder with each passing year. You cannot spend your life drifting among poems and women's chatter, Xueqin scolded him. You must devote yourself to study, to duty, to the court, to the nation. But Bao Yu could not understand a world where feeling was considered a weakness. The day Lin Yu entered the mansion, everything shifted again. Softly at first, like the first note of a melancholy song. Her arrival was quiet. She came with only a small procession, dressed in mourning clothes, pale from travel and sorrow. Her mother had died, leaving her alone with a father too burdened by illness to care for her properly, and so the Jia clan, her mother's family, claimed her. Bao Yu stood in the courtyard when she stepped down from her carriage. His breath caught without warning, for in her face he saw something he recognized instinctively, someone delicate yet sharp, someone whose feelings ran deeper than she dared show. She looked at him, her gaze lingering on the jade around his neck. So, this is the famous Bao Yu, she said lightly, though shadows clung to the edges of her voice. The boy born with a precious stone. Bao Yu touched it self-consciously. It's just a jade. Is it? Her eyes softened for a moment, then drifted away. Some things we're born with, we don't get to choose. He didn't understand her meaning then, but he felt it. Her sadness, her fierceness, her fragile pride. Later that night, as he lay awake in bed, Bao Yu whispered to himself, "Why do I feel like I've known her forever?" He didn't know the answer, but the stone and the flower in their previous existence did. Two souls had found each other again, and fate quietly closed its hand around them. Not long after Dayu's arrival came another, Zhui Baochai, her demeanor warm, composed, and effortlessly gracious. Where Dayu sparkled with icy brilliance, Baochai glowed with steady sunlight. She was the kind of girl who made others feel safe simply by existing. When she walked through the garden for the first time, the maids whispered about her charm. Look at her elegance, and how she carries herself. Unlike Miss Lin, she seems so perfect. But Bao Yu did not divide the two in his heart. He felt tenderness for both, though one awakened his soul and the other calmed it. Bao Chai was everything society praised. She was disciplined, gentle, intelligent without boasting, and graceful without trying. She understood the world not just emotionally, but practically. And though she admired Bao Yu for his sincerity, she also saw the storm in him that could destroy him. During one of their early conversations, Bao Yu admitted, "I envy your calmness. Your heart seems to weather everything." Bao Chai smiled wistfully. Calmness is not always peace. Sometimes it is simply the silence left after choosing not to cry. Bao Yu stared at her, realizing for the first time that her gentleness was not naivete, it was strength. He admired her, but he never burned for her, not the way he did for Dayu. The Grand View Garden grew into a little paradise for the youth of the mansion. Peach blossoms carpeted the ground in spring. Lotus flowers opened their white petals in summer. In autumn, golden chrysanthemums filled the courtyards, while winter laid a shimmering veil of snow over everything. Here, the young women recited poetry, played instruments, painted, embroidered, and walked among bamboo groves discussing literature. Bao Yu, ignoring every reprimand, spent as much time there as possible. His father hated it. "You disgrace your ancestors by wasting your days with idle girls." But Bao Yu found truth in gentleness, not ambition. He found beauty in emotion, not rank. And he sensed, in every girl's laughter, a fragility that made him want to protect them, especially Dai Yu. She moved through the garden like a falling petal, light, delicate, uncertain. She wrote poetry that could pierce the heart. Sometimes she laughed brightly, but more often her joy flickered, easily swallowed by jealousy or sorrow. When she coughed, which she often did, it sent a stab of fear into Bao Yu. "Are you all right?" he would ask. "It's just the wind," she'd reply. But her eyes betrayed her, and Bao Yu wished he could carry every sickness in her place. Meanwhile, another figure commanded attention in the mansion, Wang Shifeng, Bao Yu's cousin by marriage. She was the phoenix of the Jia clan, shrewd, charismatic, beautiful, and terrifyingly competent. While others simmered in their emotions, Shifeng controlled her surroundings with a smile sharp enough to cut glass. She managed household finances, mediated disputes, and navigated politics with a grace that masked lethal calculation. Servants feared her, officials respected her. The old matriarch trusted her, yet Bao Yu saw something underneath. "I envy your strength, cousin," he once told her. Shifeng raised an eyebrow. "Strength? You mistake survival for strength. I simply refuse to be eaten alive." He considered her words long after she left, because even in her power, he sensed a loneliness like a locked door in her heart, a door that would one day swing open onto tragedy. And then there was Xueqin, Bao Yu's favorite maid, spirited, rebellious, loyal to the point of recklessness. She teased him when he deserved it and defended him when no one else dared. Her beauty was unrefined, sharp-edged, the kind that made people either adore or resent her. Some of the older servants whispered she was too bold, too wild, too proud. But Bao Yu loved her genuineness. When she helped fasten a button on his robe one morning, he joked, "Why do you look at me like you despise me?" "Because you're too good for your own good," Xueqin replied, "and too foolish to see the vipers around you." "Are you one of them?" She gave a wicked grin. "If I were, you'd be dead already." He laughed, one of the rare laughs that reached his eyes. Xueqin's fierce loyalty would one day cost her everything, but for now she brightened his days like a spark in a darkening world. The seasons turned, each bringing Bao Yu and Dai Yu closer, yet also further apart. They bickered. They misunderstood each other. They circled around their feelings like two moths circling the same flame, fearful to touch it, terrified to lose it. One evening, during a gathering of poetry, Dai Yu criticized one of Bao Yu's verses. "You're too sentimental," she said lightly, though a shadow lay behind her smile. "Poetry needs restraint, not only feeling." Bao Yu frowned. "Why must everything be restrained? Why must the heart always hide?" "Because the world punishes those who reveal too much." "Then the world is wrong." Dai Yu looked at him with an expression that held both love and sorrow. "Sometimes wrong things cannot be changed." He didn't know what to say to that, and Dayu left the room before he could find the words. As the months passed, the Jia clan's extravagance grew, while its influence dwindled. The family consumed wealth faster than it could produce it. Spies from political rivals circulated rumors. Servants stole to survive. Several distant relatives sought positions at court and failed, humiliating the clan. Granny Jia alone held the family together by sheer reputation. Ministers still bowed to her out of respect for her past, but even she sensed the shifting winds. "Our glory cannot last forever," she murmured once as she watched Bao Yu and the girls laughing in the garden. "Let them enjoy this peace while it remains." Her voice trembled with a grief too deep for the others to notice. She knew, perhaps more clearly than anyone, that the garden was a dream built inside a collapsing house. The first crack came quietly. A distant cousin was implicated in corruption. Officials raided his home. His disgrace spilled over to the Jia clan, whose own finances were already faltering. The emperor, who once favored the family, began to treat them with cold indifference. Xifeng felt the tension immediately. "The walls are closing in," she told her husband. "We've spent too much, made too many enemies. If we don't change something soon, everything will fall apart." But her warnings went ignored. Wealth breeds arrogance, and the Jia clan believed it too big to fall. They were wrong. All the while, the love triangle quietly deepened. Bao Chai, ever perceptive, noticed Bao Yu's gaze drifting toward Dayu more often than toward her. She saw the way Dayu's breath hitched whenever Bao Yu entered a room. She sensed the rivalry between them, a rivalry made not by malice, but by destiny itself. One afternoon, Bao Chai found Dayu sitting alone beneath a flowering peach tree, her eyes red from crying. "Are you unwell?" Bao Chai asked gently. Dayu stiffened. "I'm fine." "You've been coughing more lately." "It's nothing." They sat together in silence for a moment before Bao Chai spoke again. "Sometimes it's better to share what hurts us." Dayu laughed softly, bitterly. "And say what? That I love someone I cannot have? That I fear losing what was never mine?" Bao Chai's expression flickered, but she did not look away. "If you truly believe that, then you misunderstand him and yourself." Dayu's eyes filled again. "Then tell me, what am I to him?" Bao Chai closed her fan gently. "Someone whose joy he feels as his own, and whose sorrow haunts him." Dayu lowered her head, trembling. "Then why does everything hurt so much?" Bao Chai had no answer. She only reached out and touched Dayu's hand, her own heart twisting with a strange tenderness. For in that moment she realized that Dayu was not her rival. She was a girl aching for love in a world that punished tenderness. But even Bao Chai could not stop the tide that was coming. The elders met in secret. The finances were failing. Officials were distancing themselves. The clan needed a stabilizing marriage, an alliance with a family that still held favor in the court. Bao Chai is perfect, they decided. Dayu is too fragile, too unpredictable, too sick. And Bao Yu's feelings are irrelevant. A marriage arranged not for love, but for survival, for prestige, for the illusion of stability. No one told Bao Yu, no one told Dai Yu. Whispers circulated among the servants. Rumors reached the younger maids. Xueqin overheard something that made her blood boil. "That's impossible," she said through clenched teeth. "He loves Miss Lin. Everyone sees it." But the world did not care what the heart saw. It cared only what tradition demanded, and tradition demanded sacrifice. The day Dai Yu overheard the truth marked the beginning of her end. She had been walking past the servants' quarters when she heard two women whispering. "The match is finalized. Bao Yu will marry Bao Chai." "Poor Miss Lin, that girl will break apart." "She already has. I wonder if she will survive it." Dai Yu's breath left her, her vision blurred. The ground seemed to tilt beneath her feet. She clutched the wall, her heart cracking open in silence. Her mind raced. Of course this is how fate works. Why did I ever believe I deserved joy? She staggered back to her room, clutching the sleeve of her robe as if it were the last thread holding her to the world. She tore open her chest of poems, pages she had written with trembling hope, and collapsed onto the floor. Her tears soaked into the paper, blurring the ink like melting snow. When Bao Yu came running to her, she turned her face away. "Dai Yu, what's wrong? Tell me." "There's nothing to tell," she whispered. "Nothing at all." "You're lying." "Why do you think everything is about you?" she snapped, surprising even herself. Bao Yu froze. She regretted the words instantly, but she could not take them back, not when her heart was shattering inside her ribs. Bao Yu soon learned the truth as well. When his father summoned him to kneel, Bao Yu's stomach tightened. He sensed something terrible in the air. "Bao Yu," Jiazheng said, "you will marry Lady Bao Chai. The decision has been made." Bao Yu felt as though someone had struck him. "What? Why?" "Do not question tradition. The clan needs this. You will obey." "But what about—" "There is no but. This marriage concerns the survival of our family. You will not shame us by resisting." Bao Yu's mind burned. Dai Yu. Her face, her voice, her tears. He ran to find her. He needed to tell her that he hadn't chosen this, that he loved her, that nothing, not even duty, could erase what he felt. But by the time he reached her room, she was unconscious. Her illness had seized her completely, as if her body had finally surrendered to the heartbreak she'd fought for so long. And there, in the silence of her chamber, Dai Yu slipped away, like a candle extinguished by the softest breath, like a flower that could no longer hold itself upright. Bao Yu's grief consumed him. He tore the jade from his neck, sobbing until his voice broke. Xueqin tried to comfort him, her own eyes red. "She didn't want to leave you," she whispered. "She loved you more than she ever dared say." But Bao Yu could not hear anything over the sound of his own heart breaking. Meanwhile, Bao Chai prepared herself for a marriage she had never asked for. She stood before the mirror on the morning of the ceremony, touching her bridal veil with trembling hands. If only things had been different, she thought. If only he had looked at me the way he looked at her. She would enter that marriage with grace. But she knew, before she even stepped into the red-lit hall, that she would never have his whole heart. The wedding proceeded like a puppet show. Lanterns glowed, guests smiled, drums thundered, silks rustled. But Bao Yu felt nothing. When he lifted the veil and saw Bao Chai's gentle face, he forced a smile he did not feel. She saw the emptiness behind it, and she swallowed her grief like a stone dropped into her throat. Meanwhile, the Jia clan collapsed. Officials raided their accounts. Servants fled. Relatives betrayed each other. The emperor issued decrees stripping the family of titles. Xuefeng fought fiercely to keep order, but even she could not stop the avalanche. Surrounded by corruption allegations, political enemies, and her husband's infidelity, she fell ill. Her once brilliant eyes dulled. This house, everything I built, all for nothing, she murmured before she died. Loneliness etched into her fading breath. One by one, the pillars of the mansion crumbled. The grand view garden grew wild, overtaken by weeds and silence. Rooms once filled with warmth now echoed hollowly. The music and poetry vanished like smoke in wind. Bao Yu wandered through the ruins of the garden months after the wedding. His heart felt like dust. He touched the cracked jade, now dull, as if stripped of its divine glow. I don't belong here any more, he whispered, not to this world, not to this broken dream. At dawn, he left. Some said he shaved his head and became a monk. Some said his spirit returned to the heavens. Some said he walked into the mountains and simply disappeared. But the truth lived beyond human words. The stone had finished its journey, and the flower had returned every tear it owed.